I got to do really great work with really smart people outside of the country. I got to be in Africa, which, you know, for me as a Black person, that was like going to Mecca. And Microsoft afforded me those opportunities.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Student Career Studios Career Chat Series. Tonight we have two very distinguished guests, Ashleigh and Chauncey, who both are in non-tech careers at Microsoft. I'm so excited to chat with them tonight because I have so many students interested in non-tech roles at Microsoft. So I thought it would be a great idea to have Ashleigh and Chauncey share their journey and their experience. And for those who have joined us before, welcome back. And for those who are joining us for the first time, welcome. Student Career Studio is a nonprofit organization bridging the gap between opportunities and students and providing access and exposure to various scholarship, internship, and leadership opportunities. Career Chats is a speaker series for professionals to share their journey about how they got to where they are today. I hope it provides students as well as professionals insights to career possibilities and really a forum to ask questions and have dialogue, build community, and connect with others across the country in this virtual environment. So if you have any specific questions throughout the session, feel free to drop them in the chat. And thank you so much again for everyone who submitted questions in advance. So thank you everybody on the call for being here tonight with us. I really appreciate it. And with that, I will kick it over to our distinguished guests, Ashleigh and Chauncey, for introductions. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for having us. Chauncey, you want it or?
Ladies first.
Okay, well, hi everyone. My name is Ashleigh Williams. I'm from Prince George's County, Maryland. I am a business development manager at Microsoft. I went to Hampton University. I see Ian Weaver on here who also went to Hampton. So shout out to Ian and any other Hamptonians on the call. I just wanted to really come here and share my story about my journey into tech. My journey was a little non-traditional. Prior to my senior year, I thought I would be in financial services, but I actually ended up starting my career in finance at a tech company. So I was actually able to still merge my passion for finance and tech. And we can talk about how that all came into fruition at some point tonight. But that's just a little bit about my background outside of work. I really enjoy traveling. I love personal finance and I love to cook. So that's a little bit about me.
Awesome. Thanks, Ashleigh. Hi, everyone. I'm Chauncey Stoud, originally from West Side of Chicago, Illinois, born and raised. I attended Florida A&M University and I'm a proud alum. You know, so Rattlers in the building, you know, and at Florida A&M, I majored in business administration, did internships with JP Morgan in investment banking for 2 straight summers, and then made the transition into tech where I started my career with Microsoft in the finance rotation program. And so currently I'm a financial analyst with the US One Commercial Partner business. So I basically manage and assess the financial performance of 3 of our largest partner cohorts. And these partners kind of connect with our customers to sell them our products. So I operate across all software, Azure, Dynamics, Microsoft 365, and also our Surface hardware business. So yeah, happy to be here. You know, looking forward to your questions.
Great. Thank you guys for those introductions. So I wanted to start back when you both were in college. I think you both were business administration majors. So how did you get into finance and wanting to pursue a career in finance?
So for me, I knew that I wanted to go into business administration actually in high school. So coming into college, my mind was pretty made up that I wanted to study business. And when I got to college, I realized that finance and especially accounting was a huge focus at my school. And we had a program called the 5-year MBA program. And there was a huge emphasis on accounting, but when I realized that finance was pretty similar, except you're thinking more in the future and looking at more future projections, I was like, you know what, Ashleigh, that, you know, piques my interest a little bit more. And I also was very interested in learning about investing, which aligns very closely to finance. So that's what sparked my interest in, financial services. So similar to Chauncey, I also worked in financial services. I was at Goldman Sachs prior to Microsoft, and before then, I was at KPMG, which is an accounting company. And for me, I thought that if you understood the numbers behind a company, you started to understand the direction that the company was going in. You could read trends pretty easily. So that's what really sparked my passion for finance.
Yeah. And, my story is kind of similar. Like, I always knew I wanted to be in business. In high school, I was taking, business classes. I took accounting and stuff like that. So I always kind of wanted to go that route. And I know I always wanted to make money. So, that was the main thing. And I'm like, what better industry to make money in than the financial services industry, right? But I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. And so, my first year in college, I was kind of just, fishing around, trying to see, what I was good at. I focused more on just kind of getting a 4.0 and kind of staying eligible. Um, but I also went for internship opportunities, and they tell freshmen like, oh, you won't get an internship, but I went for it anyway, right? And didn't get it, came back to Chicago that summer, and I read a book called Rich Dad's Guide to Investing. So if any of you know about like Robert Kiyosaki and Rich Dad Poor Dad, all of that. So I read that book, and it really gave me perspective on where I want to go. So I went back my sophomore year. I joined a financial club called Chief Financiers Organization. And, this was a student run club where the people who ran it were already getting internships on Wall Street. They were the flyest dressed people on campus. They just looked like they had money. And I'm like, these are the kind of people I need to be around. So after that, it was kind of just like, yo, I told them, hey, this is my GPA. This is what I want to do. I want to be I want to be an institutional investor. They said, oh, well, then you need to look at investment banking. And they put me through boot camp where I was just kind of learning how to, learning the Dow Jones, learning the stock market, learning the basics, learning how to read the financial statements and things like that. And so, ultimately that's what really sparked the interest and what propelled me into finance.
Yeah, making money is definitely the goal. And I'm glad you mentioned attending the career fair as a freshman, because that is true. A lot of people discourage freshmen from going to the career fair because they're like, oh, companies aren't looking for you. But I highly encourage it just for the experience. And you never know who may pick you up. There are several companies that have specific internships for freshmen and sophomores. So always, always, always go to the career fair. But Chauncey, I wanted to come back to your experience at JP Morgan. So you interned at JP Morgan for a summer, but you've also interned at Microsoft. So can you tell us about how you were able to get the internship at Microsoft? How are you able to talk to recruiters and leverage your experience with JP Morgan to land the actual interview? And then the differences between your internship at JP Morgan and Microsoft, and talk a little bit more about Microsoft's internship program, if you can.
Oh yeah. That's a whole lot. We got enough time? But like, how much time we got?
A
So
brief summary.
yeah, all right, cool. So basically I did two internships at JP Morgan back-to-back summers, right? Investment banking. So that's really where I started. That was my intro to corporate America, right? And I already kind of explained to y'all how I got that. I just went through boot camp and learned everything I could, leveraged my network and got in. But that's where I really learned corporate America. I learned what I like, what I don't like. You know what I mean? Like, I like making money. I didn't like working 100 hours a week. So, I was like, man, something's got to give. I need to make a change. And so, at that point, it was entering my final year at Florida A&M. I had an offer to return back to JP Morgan full time, and I turned it down. Now, I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing it the way that I did it, because I didn't have another opportunity. My only opportunity was whatever the university and God would provide for me, right? So I took a leap of faith. And Microsoft just happened to be recruiting at my campus that year. That's the first time. And there's a recruiter by the name of Keisha Ebbison. So if y'all on like LinkedIn and stuff like that, y'all need to, I'm sorry, Keisha, in advance, but like y'all need to be reaching out to Keisha, because She is responsible for me getting to Microsoft. I got went through that process with her. Obviously, they love my background, my resume, and all of these things, right? Like, got to my internship actually after I graduated. So I did my internship post graduation in the finance rotation program. And honestly, the difference between the two was just two different worlds. The financial services industry is very traditional, old school. You got to dress up, you got to wear ties and suits and blazers, you got to be clean cut, and obviously you see how I am right now. This is how I was at work. So when I joined Microsoft, and it blew my mind. I was like, oh, I can be who I can, be more who I am, still work with really cool people, work with complex issues. And in the tech industry, it's going to be there forever. It's like living in the future. So if you're in the tech industry, man, you're solid. Job security is pretty much guaranteed, I would say. So if you do your job well. And so, that was really, my experience. And I was just like, I like this a lot more. So hope that answers the question.
Yes, absolutely. Ashleigh, I want to go back to your previous experience because you have such a diverse experience working at KPMG, working at Goldman Sachs. You've even worked in for the government. So how did all of those play into your role and your interest in tech, and how did that prepare you for Microsoft?
Yeah, so freshman year, Ashleigh had no idea that I would have ended up at Microsoft or at a tech company. The type of person I was in college, like I just wanted to try out a number of different opportunities, whether it was tech, financial services, whatever it was. I always thought that networking and exposure was key, right? So as you can see, I do have a pretty diverse background, as you mentioned, with a number of different internship and externship opportunities. What ultimately brought me to tech was I had an experience at Google. And similar to Chauncey, I really enjoy the culture. I love the fact that you can be extremely innovative and also still surround yourself with extremely smart people, right? And that was always important to me. I really wanted to continue to surround myself with people that were the best of the best so that I can constantly learn, grow, and evolve. So coming up on my senior year of college, I had an internship my junior summer going into my senior year at Goldman Sachs. And I really thought that that was where I was going to land after college. But my journey to Microsoft actually started via LinkedIn. Opportunity, why not? Let's try it. Not because I ever thought that Microsoft would be the place I would work after college, but I'm so glad that I took that trip because I learned so much more about Microsoft and learned so much more about the tech industry. So that at the end of my internship experience, then at that point, the ball was kind of in my court if I wanted to go back to Goldman Sachs or if I wanted to go to Microsoft. And the reason at the time I chose Microsoft was because I wanted to challenge myself and stretch myself to try something new. Not that I didn't enjoy the work that I was doing at Goldman Sachs, but I definitely thought that going to Microsoft would provide me with an opportunity to try corporate finance, which I had never tried. So Chauncey and myself were both in a rotational program where we got a chance to rotate through 4 different groups within 2 years, which is actually kind of unheard of for someone as young or early in your career. So that was really good as far as exposure. And in hindsight, I think wrapping it all together is like every industry needs technology, right? Regardless of what industry you are in right now. Right now, I work at Microsoft, but I help out and I support rather healthcare industries. And so like every industry needs technology, regardless of what it is you are. So I'm glad that I've been able to get that tech exposure because I see that regardless of what my future might look like, I can always rely on it in some way.
Yeah, that's so true. Can you both talk more about the rotational program? Is it something that you have to apply for, or was it something that you were placed in? And then talk about, I think you said, well, I think when we talked before, one of those rotations was an international assignment. So can you touch on that?
Oh yeah. So the rotational program, it's first of all, it's a great program. Like, it's the entry level program for getting into finance out of undergrad. And so, I think if you're out of undergrad for up to 1 year, you can still apply. But yeah, you have to apply or go through a recruiter in that process, right? So for example, like in my case, I talked to Keisha, who was on campus. I went through on-campus interviews and, got sent through to the rotation program, right? And that's basically how I got connected. But yes, you will have to apply. You will have to interview multiple rounds. They might fly you out, probably not in this environment. Um, and so in my experience, I had 4 different rotations plus an internship. So 5 different roles within 2 years, right? My first rotation was kind of like an intro, and you always get some kind of like cool project to work on. And you also have it structured so that you're constantly in tune with your network, with your peers. You get really good exposure to leadership, like the CFO directly sponsors this program, the CFO of Microsoft, Amy Hood. So, it's an awesome experience. And then you get such a diverse experience as well. Like I did an OpEx role, I did a COGS role, I did internal audit where I got to travel out of the country for the first time in my life. And I went from never being out of the country to being on 4 different continents in a matter of 6 months. Like it's unheard of, you know? And so it's like the paradigm shift is enormous. Like you can't even quantify it, and that's just one rotation, right? And in my last rotation, I actually went directly from an audit in Hong Kong to my final rotation in Johannesburg, South Africa. And, I worked out there for 6 months. Microsoft paid for everything, and I mean, honestly, I got to do really great work with really smart people outside of the country. I got to be in Africa, which, for me as a Black person growing up in America, going to an HBCU, being from a predominantly Black, or not predominantly Black city, but heavily Black city of Chicago, that was like going to Mecca, So, um, and Microsoft afforded me those opportunities within the finance rotation program. Not to mention all of the skills, the tools, the networks, the people that you meet along the way. All of that accrues to when you end your rotation program experience, and then you go off into your permanent role. So, man, I'd say in a nutshell, the finance rotation program is, the ultimate way to start your career.
So Olivia is asking, do you all know if there's other rotational programs for other functions outside of finance?
Yes. So there's also a marketing, well, specifically for Microsoft, there's a marketing rotation program called the ACE program. So that's just ACE, if anyone's writing that down. And that will allow people to spend 2 years in marketing. And you're on one rotation for the first year, and you're on another rotation for the second year. And then also business development, which is the group that I transitioned to from finance. Has a rotation program, and it is a 1-year rotation program, and that's just called the business development rotational program. And so it's a 1-year program where it's split into 2 6-month intervals. And for anyone that might not be as familiar with business development, the role of anyone in business development is to create strategic partnerships so that your company's products could accelerate in the market. So for example, say Microsoft wants to build an amazing product in healthcare. That's what I work on. Yeah, an amazing product in healthcare. But we realized that, hey, we're not going to build all of this stuff ourselves. So we think about who else is in the market that we can partner with, that we can potentially acquire, form a strategic alliance with, so that we can, 1, build our brand, and 2, create an amazing product together. So it's kind of like a strategy and partnerships, mergers and acquisitions type of role, but they have a rotational program as well. And then I know we're talking heavily about Microsoft, but Facebook and Google as well do have similar rotation programs in product marketing and product management as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. I see lots of discussion in the chat, so thank you for everybody's questions. One question that I did receive before the event was, if I'm in a non-tech major, do I need to go get an MBA or some advanced degree to help me progress and get into Microsoft, or is a bachelor's okay?
Yeah, I entered with a bachelor's, and I had a non-tech degree. Like the 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 key of this is just understanding that there are business functions within tech companies, right? And so, like Ashleigh's in business development, she started in finance. I'm still in finance, but there's also sales, there's also operations, so there's a lot of different avenues where you can leverage your non-tech degree. So if that answers the question.
Yeah, I think that.
Yeah, and
Go ahead, Ashleigh.
I was just going to piggyback off of Chauncey. Yes, to answer the person's question, there are so many different avenues you can get in without an MBA. An MBA clearly is a common route. So myself, and I'm pretty sure Chauncey as well, might have had some MBA hires on their team, but it's not the only route. So when you think about the different functions in a company, a tech company, like Chauncey said, you have HR who does human resources. So think of anything from recruiting to payroll, what else might be. You have business development, which is what I just shared. Sales, they interact a lot with the field. If you want flexibility in location, if you want to engage with customers, that's what a salesperson is going to do. Operations, they keep the day-to-day of the company going. Product management, that's a hybrid between engineering and business. You're working very closely with the engineers, and it might be helpful. I can put in the chat a number of different roles people can look up. I don't want to go on and on about that, but I want everyone to be clear when they look at these career sites, there are a number of different ways you can filter your search. But when you look at the roles and requirements, typically they'll tell you if you need an MBA or not.
Yeah, and another thing on that is just that career site is, that can really be your best friend when you're, trying to understand what you want to do or what does a role entail. Those job descriptions are, very detailed, many of them. So you can go in and you can see kind of like what's your expectations, what skills are required, what certifications are required, what the overall scope of the role is. So, that'll really help inform your decision as well.
Cool. Mia is asking, what's been the most rewarding?
Mia,
What do you think has been the biggest value of the rotational program, or your most rewarding part of your job at Microsoft?
The biggest value or most rewarding?
Yeah.
There's so many things like that I'm grateful for just from being in the rotation program and being at Microsoft in general. But I would just say, if I had to sum it all up in one, it would just be experience. Like, Microsoft gave me and exposed me to so many different things that I never would have probably, pushed myself to explore on my own. You know what I mean? Like, and it gave me the opportunity to do it. Like, it gave me the opportunity to like fly business class to a foreign country, like, where you drinking champagne. And I'm like, man, like, I never would have imagined that they give you hot towels, for no reason. Like, you don't know what to do with the towel. I'm just like, stuff like that, just the little nuances of it expanding, across, different geographies, right? The kind of people that you meet in their stories. I mean, you meet people who have, literally immigrated from their homeland thousands of miles and established a new life in America. And I mean, some of the smartest people you'll ever meet in your life. You know what I mean? And also I learned how, I guess, how transferable like cool is, black cool. Like, if you a cool, smart black person, like, people love you still, no matter where you go, right? And that speaks volumes because you're able to transcend stereotypes and you're able to demystify, misconceptions about Black people. You're able to put on for your culture. And, I say that, man, that's probably the most rewarding thing I've gotten out of this, if I think very philosophically.
The most rewarding thing I've gotten out of the rotational program is probably, to my earlier point about network. I've met a number of different people, regardless of background, ethnicity, job function, that have poured into me. And it could be anywhere from, we're talking about work to life experiences. And for me, coming from the East Coast, going all the way to Seattle, Washington, definitely pushed me out of my comfort zone. But it caused me to kind of rethink what I considered to be normal and what the things that I could talk to, my family and friends about. And the knowledge that I gained, hopefully I was able to, depart that same knowledge on other people. But I really just appreciate the network that I was able to establish through this rotational program as well. And I'm pretty sure in any tech company, as you go through a rotational program, you're meeting, like I said, a number of people, but you're meeting a decent amount of executives as well. So you get a good amount of executive exposure. So Chauncey and I have both met the chief financial officer of Microsoft just casually. And that's not something that most people just do, every day.
Right. And then someone had a question about, when do they recruit for the finance rotational program? Is it in the fall or fall and spring?
I think the main.
I'm gonna give that one to you.
That's a good question, Reggie. I'm not HR, but I have recruited in the fall, and I believe we do recruit in the spring as well. But the thing about the recruitment process is, like, they already have like a pipeline of like 18 months. So, they pretty much already have their next year or so of, their finance rotation cohort done when they are recruiting on campus. So they're mainly going to be looking for, like, sophomores, juniors, something like, like people who are kind of like earlier in their college career. That's probably the best time for you to start applying. Trying to apply as a junior it'll be tough. I mean, you can still, and as a senior, you might as well forget about it. So, it'll be a little bit tougher. But yeah, I think they recruit twice a year, I want to say.
Okay.
But we can always follow up with the recruiter from the FRP and get you a clear response. So.
Thank you for that, Chauncey. Ashleigh, there's a lot of, because of your diverse backgrounds and being in different industries and moving over to Microsoft post-college, a lot of people want to know, like, what's your best piece of advice for those that have been working and now want to make the transition into tech? Should they go get, certifications, a graduate degree? How can they best position themselves for that transition into tech?
So, just candidly, going back to my earlier point, networking. I don't care if you think it's weird, but go on LinkedIn, connect with the right people, connect with recruiters, connect with hiring managers, people that are doing what you want to do, because applying online is great, but it's always 10 times better to have someone on the inside of a company looking out for you that can vouch for you when you're not in the room. So that is my number one piece of advice. In addition to that, also show that you have been doing some work yourself. So whether that is certifications, whether that is doing side projects for, if you're trying to get into tech, if you know someone that has, a tech startup and you can help them out with some things, you're showing initiative. Even if you're not necessarily getting paid for it, you're showing some type of initiative that you're moving in the right direction. So that would be the biggest thing. And then also, to our earlier point, clearly monitor the career site. One thing that you want to be completely sure of and intentional of is how you are recruiting for jobs. You don't want to just throw your resume out to 100 different positions. You want to be very specific in what it is you're looking for, because you don't want to be jumping from job to job every 6 months. It gets tiring after a while. So you want to make sure that you get very familiar with the career system, talk to as many people as possible so you know what a day-to-day in a role looks like, so that when you are applying for a role, when you do get the interview, you're able to then speak to, like, hey, these are the skill sets that I know are helpful because I've done X amount of research. but you're also confident when you get the job offer that this is something that you want to take. So that is the best piece of advice. Talk to as many people as possible. That's what I did. It was tiring a lot of days, but it definitely pays off.
Yeah, I definitely echo that. LinkedIn is going to be your best friend. Even if you don't send them a direct message, you can start engaging in their post, just so they can get familiar with your name and just find a commonality between you and the person that you're looking to connect with. There's also a question, what advice would you give your younger self if you were back in college? Are there any other resources that you would probably leverage more if you could go back?
I would say invest. Like I would have been on Robinhood like crazy. I knew about it, but I wasn't I didn't execute on it. I mean, is this like a personal question or is this like a professional question?
um
It's an open question, anything.
Okay. Yeah. Then if I could go back, yeah, I would say, man, invest. Like, put your money. I would have invested in Tesla, like we've been talking about in our weekly market talks. Don't just talk about it. Take some initiative and expand and actually experiment. You know what I mean? Do something about it. You know, Nas had a great line in one of his songs called "Take It in Blood," where he said, "Why shoot the breeze about it when you could be about it?" And to me, that kind of stuck. And I've learned that as I went on, if I would have just took the extra step and just executed more, then I probably would be in an even better position.
For myself, I like Chauncey's advice as far as investing, because the way your money compounds is crazy. So I definitely do like that point. From a recruiting standpoint, because I'm assuming, was this question maybe posed for like, how would I approach business opportunities? I don't know who asked it, but whoever asked it, if you want to clarify.
Go ahead, Michael.
It was just a general question, anything you would have done differently or just stuff for us to focus on and think about.
Okay, yeah. So, one thing that I would have done differently is in my off time, any downtime I had, I would have figured out certain skills that could make myself marketable. And so figure out whatever career path it is you want to take. If you want to be an engineer, even if you're not taking a coding class right now, figure out how to do that on the side. If you're super passionate about finance and you're not into any finance classes right now, learn that stuff on your own. I realized that the internet has everything you need, and you don't need permission to get it, right? So my biggest piece of advice is build your skill sets up, because at the end of the day, once you graduate, someone will pay you for those skill sets. So in addition to networking, that's probably my biggest takeaway. And follow the markets. That goes back to Chauncey's point, but the reason I say follow the markets is not just because of your money, but because of your job security. You want to know what type of companies are going to be around for a while. And you want to know what type of brands you want to align yourself with for your own professional brand and things like that as you move forward in your career. In the market, if you look at it long enough, it'll tell you everything you need to know. So even if it's just 5 minutes a day, like Wall Street Journal, something, that's probably some advice I would give somebody.
One more thing on that, kind of to the follow the markets piece. Like one of the things that helped me out the most was the fact that I was around a group of similar like-minded people. So you have to be aware of the kind of people that you're kicking it with just for no reason, because that can dictate your future, for real. So if you're around intelligent people and smart people or driven people, like entrepreneurial minded people who are trying to get it, then that's just going to set you up for more success, because you kind of build off of each other. You know what I mean? And there's strength in numbers. So if you can get involved in the club, if you're not already involved in the club, like if you can get involved in some kind of activity to get you around those kind of people, that can help boost you. So
yeah, I totally agree with that. Ian, you had a question. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you so much, Ms. Johnson. I want to start with just a couple of comments. I want to say thank you, Ms. Johnson, for putting this on. I'm sort of new to Ashleigh. Me and Ashleigh went to the same program. Ashleigh is literally the nicest person you will ever meet and the most helpful person ever. So, like, please, everyone reached out to her. And to Chauncey, I just wanted to say, you know, for starters, man, I resonate with you a lot, man. Just being a young Black male, you in school, you know, I was the same. Freshman year, I went for an internship. I was lucky enough to get it. I got PwC. I was super excited, and I was able to have an internship pretty much throughout my entirety of Hampton. I graduated with an MBA, but I just really like, the young Black male that's really out here trying to hustle and really trying to make more of himself. So Chauncey, I really, appreciate that. But that's the question for the panelists. For Ashleigh and Chauncey, as a recent grad, corporate America can be a little bit of a struggle. So everyone, is not really accustomed to how it is, and things like that. So I just want to know, what certain challenges y'all have in corporate America, during your time in the rotational program, and how was you able to, get past that and work past that?
That's a great question, and thanks for your. Oh, were you gonna say something, Ashley? I'll let you go.
Oh no, I was just going to say thanks for the question, Ian. But I was saying that's a real that's a real thing. I was just going to say in corporate America, one of the biggest things that I've had to struggle through is advocating for myself. Like you're going through a rotational program, which is great, but also you're new on a team every 6 months. So how you get people to trust you, how you don't just sit on the sidelines and just take whatever. And even in my current role, that's something. Being the youngest person on the team. As a business development manager, my role every day, at some point every week, I'm engaging with startup founders. I'm engaging with C-suite executives, and someone can look at me and tell that I'm young. I have kind of like a baby face, so most people can look at me and tell that I'm young. So, but still making sure that I'm, just claiming my ground and keeping my stake and being as confident as possible in the rooms and advocating for myself. And you have to also advocate for yourself to your manager as well. Sometimes some people have amazing managers, some people have managers that might also be amazing, but you just don't mesh with them as well. So you have to figure out how to advocate for yourself in a respectful way to your manager as well. That's probably been the biggest thing that I've been to this date still working through.
Yeah, I would definitely, kind of expound on that point and piggyback off of it, because it's true, like navigating the politics and this whole corporate structure is, it's a constant challenge, because there's always kind of like different nuances that you may not have seen or you may not have experienced. And so, you have to learn to kind of get that confidence in yourself. You have to find your voice. And, honestly, that comes with time, and it comes with, putting in the work, right? I would say. But like for me, it was kind of like overcoming, I guess, what they call like imposter syndrome or whatever, where, you may, walk into some of these rooms and you're the only Black person, or you're the only young person, or you're the only woman, right? Or something like that. And, people will kind of like, not give you the respect because they don't really know what kind of value that you bring, right? And I felt like that a lot, just being a super young person, where everybody on my team is like 30s and up. They got kids, MBAs, they got all different kind of problems that I ain't never even thought about before, And so I'm just like trying to find where I fit in, right? So what I found was that the more curious I was, and the more kind of just like action that I took, the more proactive I was. That's a big one, learning proactivity and learning how to be more structured with my calendar and all of these things. Like I was not that. I'm a very scattered person. So I had to get some structure in my life, right? And then I had to, be proactive. Like I had to anticipate asks before they came to me, right? And that was kind of like what really got me going, because now I'm like, okay, I know how my manager thinks. So I know when I send them this update, I know to include this. And I know when I'm doing this model, I need to have this in there, right? And so you anticipate all of that, and then you get a lot further, and your work is respected. Also, just reviewing, like taking the time to double check my work and triple check it, and make sure that it's to the as proper as it can be. In college, you can kind of get away with being a little sloppy, in corporate America, you really have very little leeway to be sloppy, because people will see that and they'll discard you, and they'll be like, all right, well, they'll discount your position on anything. And then you have to work to gain that reputation back and gain that respect back, right? So, be thorough. I had to learn that, had to learn how to be super thorough, super structured, super aware of where people sit and who does what, and who, knowing my audience, you know what I mean? Who do I give this report to? When I write this commentary, how do I word it so that this person doesn't feel like I'm discounting what they do, right? All of these little politics play a role, and you kind of learn that as you go. So, but that's definitely the toughest piece.
Yeah, I can resonate with all of that. So both of you hit on Microsoft culture earlier. So can you talk more about the Microsoft culture, the work-life balance, just what the experience is like to be a Microsoft employee?
Yeah, so especially coming from financial services, I'm pretty sure Chauncey would agree, work-life balance is much better than working on Wall Street. So your hours, I mean, depending on what it is you're doing, most people do respect 9 to 5. You do clearly have your days where, you go over that, but most people do understand if you have a family commitment or things like that. So most people, I would say, respect 9 to 5. Whether people are getting off at 5 every day, I can't say, but as far as the culture, I think that a little bit more open than and when I say open, I mean open in thought, open to new, like I said, ideas, innovations, and just new perspectives altogether. So that's whether that's me trying to pitch a D&I initiative, or me saying, let's approach a partner differently, or Chauncey saying, let's look at this financial model differently. Like, people just typically tend to have like an open mindset. And I think the reason being is because, I mean, tech, you're innovating for the future, right? So in order to innovate for the future, you have to be open. So that's what I would say the culture is like. There are amazing, fun things on campus to do once, in a world that was pre-COVID. So some of the fun things would be, we have a Blacks at Microsoft group. We would have a conference every year, a gala. You could walk in the cafeteria and there are like cooking shows. I can't even think of all the fun things, but there are so many different cool things you can do in tech that, to be honest, just feel like a lot of nice little perks. So yeah, I've enjoyed it thus far.
I was reading the comments, so I forgot. Can you repeat the question? Sorry.
Just talk more about Microsoft's culture, the work-life balance. What is the experience like as a Microsoft employee?
Yeah, the culture is amazing. Like, the culture is what sold me. Just the fact that when I was on my interview, it's funny. All the finance people on their interviews are wearing suits and stuff like that because they don't know the culture. They not hip yet, right? But all the software engineers are like wearing cargo pants and like boat shoes or sneakers or whatever. Like, you got people with pink hair. Like, it doesn't matter. And I was just kind of like taken aback, right? Like, yo, this place is mad different. Also, the campus is like a big college campus for adults. It's just like, it's everything you can imagine on there. They got food, they got, basketball courts, they got, man, all type of crazy tech stuff. Like, it's, you could be playing Xbox in one building, you can go to another building, and, they have all kind of crazy artwork and designs. So I'm just like, man, this place is next level. And I would say, the 9 to 5 culture is very real. I'm not living that right now because I'm working a lot, but it's all good. That's kind of what comes with the territory. The people are, very kind of like collaborative. And, I think Microsoft built a culture of, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. Let's look out for each other. Your success is my success. All of these things, right? Like, our performance reviews there's 3 pillars. One pillar is, what did you do? What activity did you lead or whatever, right? The next two pillars are about how you work with others. How are you leveraging the success of others? And then, what do you provide? How did you contribute to the success of others, right? So, when you have a culture like that, it's beautiful because it's like together we rise. You feel me? So in my mind, I want to be a part of a culture like that, because that's my mentality as a person. I rather unify than just worry about myself. And, I think ultimately that resonates with me a lot. The leadership, Sati and Adela, Amy Hood, all of those people who kind of, you know, they set the tone. And so I appreciate that.
Yeah, with Microsoft being such a big company, over 100,000 employees, how do you kind of like build a community and not feel like you're just a number at this huge, huge company?
Oh, that's easy. Ashleigh mentioned that earlier, with like the Blacks at Microsoft group and the employee resource groups, right? Like when I got to Microsoft, I joined BAM. I joined, it was Blacks at Microsoft. I joined FAME, which is Finance African American Microsoft Employees, and a dope name at that, right? It's just a great acronym. So, but when you see all of these Black people who are kind of like doing their thing in tech, and they're, you have all different ranges from people who are really high level, like the chief accounting officer is a Black woman at Microsoft, and she's the exec sponsor for FAME, right? So, but it's a community, right? Everyone kind of, we have events, we have professional development events, we have holiday parties, boat crews, like all these different things that build that community. And that's what kept me at Microsoft, and that's what kept me in Seattle as long as I was there for 4 years. So, if I didn't have that, I probably would have skated. But, that really helps set the foundation.
Ashleigh, you have anything to add to that?
I was just going to say, as far as building a network, I mean, Chauncey really hit it. You have to just figure out what your interests are. You got to figure out what your personal and your professional goals are. So, and find people that are aligned with that. Blacks at Microsoft, of course, like people are going to come together just based off feeling culturally safe together, because there's not many Black people in Seattle. So that group is like a safe space for Black people. But also you got to figure out professionally, what are some goals and aspirations that you have? One of my mentors, I talk to him about investing all the time, and I rarely talk to him about his day job, but that's because I realize that that's a commonality between the two of us, and that's what I can leverage from that relationship. So figure out what's important to you, figure out who else has the same, passions, interests, experience, and create relationships. So that's my biggest advice.
All right, I'm just going back through the chat. Grace was saying, how do you advocate for yourself? Like, what does that look like, Ashleigh? You mentioned that before. And then after that, Chauncey, this question is for you. What good organization tips do you implement in your everyday? So we'll start with Ashleigh.
Yeah, so advocating for myself is something that I'm still working through. And thankfully, I have mentors that have helped guide me, who are, later in their career, who've given me amazing advice. So a couple of things I'll say is, when you're in a situation where you feel like maybe you're being talked over, or you're not getting the respect that you need, I think that there are ways to respectfully, kind of combat that situation. So whether that's you kindly stating, like, kindly trying to get everyone's attention in the room, or you just coming to that meeting extremely prepared because you already know people have a certain impression about you. Those are probably my biggest pieces of advice for a situation like that. In a situation with your manager, if you feel like you need to advocate for yourself, I think you should also come to that conversation very prepared. I don't know what the issue might be, but say it's an issue and you feel like you're not getting the support from your manager that you need to come to that conversation with potential examples. You need to come to that conversation prepared on how you think your manager can also help you, and what a relationship going forward should look like for you so that you can continue to be successful. So I think the overarching thing that I'm trying to say here is, like, you need to understand what a successful environment looks like for you, or what an inclusive environment looks like for you. Once you figure that out, you have to be able to respectfully figure out how to communicate that to others if you feel like you're not getting the respect that you need. So, and it's also helpful to have sponsors as well. Sponsors, there's a difference between mentors and sponsors. A mentor is someone that I go to, you know, for advice, but a sponsor is someone that I know will mention my name when I'm not in the room. And one of my mentors has turned into a sponsor. And it's crazy because in that relationship, it's like, I know that if I'm in the room or not, or if I'm having an issue with my manager or anything going on, I know that I can go to that person who, you know, knows my work ethic, knows about me, to advocate for me. And it's always a good feeling to have someone above you that can advocate for you.
Excellent point. Thank you for that, Ashleigh. Chauncey, I see you answered Valerie in the chat. Thank you for that. Do you all have any final thoughts before we close out tonight? Advice, anything?
I would just say, you know, wherever you are in life, in whatever stage you're in life, it's gonna always feel like, you know, oh, can it get any worse? Or, you know, man, like, how am I gonna make it out of this? Like, you're gonna always go through phases like that, right? But my advice would be to, one, find something that brings you peace, whether it be through spirituality, faith. You know, it doesn't have to be, you know, some people don't believe in like being religious or whatever. Like, it doesn't have to be that, but you have to find something righteous that can ground you and give you some type of internal motivation and a moral compass and a purpose. You know what I mean? And then just keep a positive mindset, right? Like, just stay positive. Always think about what the end goal is, what you're trying to get. Once you have a purpose, then you always know where you're headed. You know, you have guidance. And never be afraid to choose yourself over the masses. And when I say that, I mean, there's going to always be people who say, oh, can you do this for me? Or can you do that for me? Or, hey, I have this birthday party. Or, hey, you know, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Come turn up, like whatever. If you know you're not where you want to be, if you know you're not handling business the way that you can to live up to your potential, then you need to reevaluate, you know, and I would always say, you know, choose your greater yes, put your best effort forward and stay positive. And then, you know, that's how you win. And it's been proven time and time again. Much love.
I would say that I'm pretty sure everyone might have heard this advice already, but life is truly a game of chess, not checkers. So what I mean by that is you need to be very strategic and intentional with all of your moves. You need to think about, you know, your career, not just in the next 1 year. You need to think about what you want for yourself in the next 5 years or, you know, 8 years. And I'm not saying that things don't change, things clearly change, but you don't need to necessarily take a job just because it's checking this box. It needs to, you know, make sense for your long-term goals or whatever is important to you at the time. So for some people, it's money. For some people, it's personal gratification, whatever that might be. But you need to make sure you have some type of why and know why your next move is intentional for you. So that's a huge piece of advice I want to leave everyone with. I want to also let people know that the purpose of this conversation clearly was to let people know that there are opportunities in technology for underrepresented minorities. A lot of us on this call, to my knowledge, are African American. There's a place for us in technology, and you don't have to code. And you can still be just as smart as the coders in your own way. So figure out what skills you're good at, figure out what makes you happy, like Chauncey said, and go for it and build your resume up and connect with the right people so you can land those right opportunities. And I mentioned in the chat what some of those opportunities are, and connect with myself and Chauncey on if you have any additional questions. But just make sure you're always strategic in every relationship, every next move, because at the end of the day, it'll all add up to be one beautiful picture. So that's my biggest advice, and thank you all.
I love that. So people, so go ahead, Chauncey.
I would just say, like, you know, we all are in the middle of a pandemic right now, right? We all went through a crazy 2020. You know that life is short. You know that life isn't promised. You know that now. You've seen it. So don't waste any time. Like, don't. Just, if you want to do something, do it. You know, if you want to, life is about experiences, you know, so go experience that. You know, don't waste time, man, because it's not promised.
Very, very true. So if people have questions after the event, what's the best way to get in touch with both of you, Ashleigh and Chauncey?
So I can drop my email address in the Zoom chat so everyone can have that. And then also, actually, I'm sorry, LinkedIn. LinkedIn is probably the best way for me to handle requests. I apologize. So I'll just type out my full name and you all can search me on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to respond to any requests.
Yeah, the best way to reach me is through my exec admin, you know, and I'll probably get yeah, just reach out. Just, you know, hit me on LinkedIn. You know, I'll be sure to be checking that and, you know, respond to you and try to, you know, answer any questions you have, or if you just want to have a connection, you know, feel free. So appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us. Ashleigh, Chauncey, I can't thank you enough for your time tonight. I really appreciate all the gems and insight that you provided everybody. That is it. So go follow Student Career Studios. We're on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. If you all have any other companies you're interested in or just chats you would like to see, let me know. You can also DM me or find me on LinkedIn as well. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I hope everybody has an awesome weekend.